everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to today's video. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. So today's video is going to be on stick foundations. I have 4 stick foundations with me, so I thought I will do a quick review and demo and comparison of all these 4 foundations for you guys. So if you guys are interested, then please continue watching. Okay, so let's quickly get started with today's video. I have 4 stick foundations with me. I have the Hourglass one, I have the new Colourpop no filter stick foundation, I have the Sugar Ace of Base or Ace of Face a foundation stick, and I have the Nykaa SKINgenius a foundation stick. So we will be doing a quick demo and sort of a review and comparison of these stick foundations. I personally really love stick foundations. Let me just tell you straight that the Hourglass one is one of my favorite stick foundations. I love this one so much. If you have dry skin, I will highly recommend that stick foundation. Stick foundations are so convenient for me. I really love them when I am in a rush or I am traveling. Especially when I am traveling anywhere, I usually carry this Hourglass one. I have purchased this I think more than a year back, and I still have a lot left. So I love the ease of use, and especially for the Hourglass one, it blends really nicely and you get a nice coverage as well. So I really like stick foundations, and over the past few months I have ended up trying few more. So let me share my thoughts on those foundations as well, and I will let you guys know how they compare to the Hourglass one. Okay, so first of all, my favorite one is the Hourglass one I just mentioned. This is the Hourglass Vanish stick foundation. I have the shade Amber with me, and I really love the creaminess and the consistency and the formula, the texture, the blendability, really nice. It can give you a really nice coverage. I'm not really sure if this will work out that well for combo or oily skin, because it does give more of a dewy skin-like finish. Next up, we have the Colourpop no filter stick foundation. This is a new one from Colourpop. It looks something like this. I got one shade, which is the shade 145W medium dark, and it's a pretty good shade match for me. The way they have laid out the shade match and how you can choose the shades on the Colourpop website, it's pretty helpful. This foundation on the other hand is not that high coverage. It's pretty light coverage, I would say, for everyday use. And this is not a very dewy foundation or not a matte foundation. It's somewhere in between. It's like a skin-like finish. So this will be good for, I think, most skin types. If you have dry skin, then probably you should use a hydrating primer underneath. This is also a pretty good foundation. Then we have the Sugar Ace of Face foundation. Now this foundation also is a pretty good coverage foundation like the Hourglass one. It will give you some coverage, and I will show you in the demo. You can see much better. One good thing about the foundation is that it comes with a brush right here. All of these foundation sticks, they work best with a dense brush. So the Sugar one comes with a dense brush, although I do prefer my Zoeva brush, which I usually use for these kind of foundations. I prefer this one than the Sugar one, but at least there is something here, so you don't need to invest in another brush if you don't have it. So that's great, and I quite like the formula of the Sugar one as well. This one is also like the Hourglass one. It gives more than a skin-like finish. It has a little bit of a dewy finish. The texture is pretty good, little bit more heavier and pigmented than the Colourpop one, and blends pretty well, I would say, but not as easily as the Hourglass and the Colourpop one. But still, I think the blendability of this one is pretty good, not very difficult to blend, just a little bit of work. And then we have the Nykaa one at the end. I have the shade 04 Warm Honey. Now for the Nykaa one, the shade is a little bit off for me. I will show you in the demo. It's not a perfect match for me, but it still works. I can make it work. The finish of the Nykaa one is not really like a dewy finish. It's more like a natural finish. It doesn't give a lot of dewiness or matteness. It's somewhere in between. But this is a little bit of a drier formula. This is the more drier one which I have used out of the 4 which I'm showing you here. So it's a little bit difficult to blend. Since it is a tad bit on the drier side, it takes a little bit more time to blend this one out, but eventually it does get blended pretty well. So this one and the Colourpop one, I would say, are suitable for all kind of skin types. If you have dry skin, just prime your face really well. Use a hydrating primer or a glowy primer if you want the dewiness. But I think both of these will work for most skin types. For Hourglass one, as I already mentioned, it's great for dry skin people. I'm not too sure about the combo skin type, but for oily, I don't think this foundation is going to work. And then we have the Sugar one. I have two shades I will show in the demo. For the sugar one, I think this will also work pretty well for dry to combo skin. For oily skin, I'm not really sure if this will work great. That's how what I feel about the foundations. I have personally dry skin, so I can just speak for myself. Now some quick comparisons. How much product do you get? So in the Hourglass one, you get 0.25 ounce or 7.2 grams of product, so it's quite less compared to a regular foundation. Regular foundation you get 1 ounce, so it's quite less. But I have been using this foundation for a really long time and I still am using it, so it's not like you will run out very quickly, and you do need a very little bit of this foundation. Then we have the Colourpop one. The Colourpop one has 9.5 grams or 0.34 ounce of product, so a little more than the Hourglass one. Then in the sugar ones we have, I have to check the box, I think. In the sugar one you get 12 grams of product, so you get a lot of product, much more than the Hourglass and the Colourpop one. And in Nykaa you get 9 grams of product, so somewhat similar to the Colourpop one, a little bit less than the Colourpop. So for pricing, the Hourglass one is the expensive one. It is 72 Singapore dollars, pretty expensive, but if you ask me, I think it's totally worth the money. Then you have the Colourpop one, very affordable, 10 USD or somewhere around 12 Singapore dollars. Really affordable. I like the price point of this foundation. Then you have sugar, which is for 999 Indian rupees. I would say pretty good value since you're getting more product, around 12 grams of product. And the Nykaa one is around 525 or something rupees, and they have a lot of sales and discounts going on. So I think this is also priced pretty well, around 500 rupees. And if you have to talk about the shade range, then the Hourglass one has 32 shades, a lot of shades to choose from, and the shade Amber matches me pretty well. The Colourpop one has around 40 shades if I'm not wrong. Lot of shades to choose from here as well. And the sugar and the Nykaa one, they are both Indian companies, and most Indian makeup companies have pretty disappointing shade range. So the sugar one has 6 shades and the Nykaa one has 7 shades. If you ask me, I have got a pretty good shade match for sugar, but I have purchased 2 shades, and if I mix these 2 shades, I get a pretty good shade match. And for the Nykaa one, the shade is a little bit off. I have the shade 04, so I feel like if I get 05, maybe it will be a little bit better. So if you're close to my skin tone, just let me know in the comment section below if you have used 05, what do you feel about it. Okay, so that was a broad comparison of all the foundation sticks. Now let's go into the demo where I will apply the foundations on my face side by side so that you can get a better idea of how the foundations look on me. So let's go to the demo first. Okay, so let's get started with the first set of foundations. For the first application, I will be using these two. There's the Hourglass foundation and the Colourpop foundation. And on this side of the face, I will apply the Hourglass one, and the Colourpop one I will apply on this side. So for Hourglass, I have the shade Amber, and for Colourpop, this is a new one, which I have the shade Medium Dark 145 Warm. So let's start off with the Hourglass one. I will apply just a little bit on this half of the face, and this foundation gives you quite a lot of coverage, but I usually don't go for a lot of coverage, so I usually apply just this much. That's all I'm going to use, and with all my stick foundations I always use a dense brush. Stick foundations will work best with dense brushes, that's what I have found. So I just use my Zoeva Silk Finish brush and I'll just blend it away. The Hourglass foundation is super easy to blend. It's just super creamy, very pigmented, and doesn't take any effort to blend. So as you can see, in a few swipes it just blended very easily. You can build this foundation up. I'll just apply just a tad bit more to show you. Still it is very easy to blend. Now today I am not wearing any kind of primer, but usually underneath this Hourglass foundation I will use a hydrating primer. In fact, it's true for all the other foundations, the stick foundations, I use a hydrating primer. So that's the Hourglass foundation. As you can see, this side of the face looks much more smoother than this side, but on this side it's not that even. So let's apply the Colourpop one on this side and I'll show you guys. This Colourpop foundation is also really creamy and very lightweight, but if I have to compare it with the Hourglass one, I think the Hourglass one is much more creamier in texture. So I've applied this much. Now I will blend with the same brush, the Zoeva brush, and this Colourpop foundation also blends really easily. So I think the Hourglass foundation is a tad bit more creamier and a tad bit more easier to blend, but this side is also blending very easily. This foundation also blends quite easily. So that's the kind of coverage you're getting with the Colourpop one. I feel I have applied the same amount. I'll just apply a little bit more because I had applied a few more here. So I'll just apply a little bit more on this side, and we'll see how the coverage is. So here you go, we have both the foundations on my face, and I think if I have to compare very closely, then probably the Hourglass side is a tad bit more pigmented. You will get a little bit more coverage from the Hourglass side. Definitely I feel that this side doesn't have a lot of coverage. It's a very skin-like finish. It doesn't look like I have applied a foundation, but this side I feel like I have applied something, a BB cream or something. This side it looks really natural. So yeah, I think the Colourpop side is also pretty good, like for everyday use. If you don't want a lot of coverage, this is really good. And the wear time is also pretty good, but I think the Hourglass one looks good for much longer hours. I have worn this for many hours, like 8-9 hours, and it looks really good till you take off your makeup. This one I think kind of fades away towards the end of 5 or 6 hour mark, because probably it doesn't have a lot of coverage, maybe that's why. But I think both the foundations are quite good. Okay guys, I have washed my face and have applied some moisturizer. We'll move on to the next set of foundations, and in this set I have the Nykaa SKINgenius foundation and the Sugar foundation. Now for Sugar I have two because I usually mix these two. I don't have a perfect match, and for the Nykaa also I don't really have a perfect match, but we will just try to make it work. So on this side I will apply the Sugar one, and on this side I will apply the Nykaa one. So for Sugar I have these two shades, 04 and 05, 04 Brave and 05 Mocha, and for Nykaa I have the shade Warm Honey. Okay, so let's apply the Sugar one first. On this side I will apply a little bit of the Mocha first. The Sugar one is definitely like quite pigmented, and it's not as creamy as the Hourglass or the Colourpop one, but it's really pigmented, so you might get a pretty good coverage. And I will apply a little bit of this Brave towards here where I kind of highlight, so I can use this as a highlighting or a concealer shade. So let's just blend this foundation. So I sometimes feel like this brush is not as good as the Zoeva one which I have, so it's a little bit difficult to blend with this brush for me, but I think it's still a good brush. It's not bad, but since I have already used this, I know how good this brush is, so that's my problem. So let me just use this Zoeva brush and just blend away. The Sugar one also blends quite easily. I would say it blends sort of like the Colourpop foundation. So that's the Sugar side. Let's apply the Nykaa side first, and then we will chat. Now I can already see here like it's a little bit off, and this foundation is not very creamy. The texture is a little bit on the drier side, and it doesn't like glide. The Hourglass one or even the Sugar one, it kind of glides on the skin when you apply. This one doesn't, like, it's not very creamy. So let's try. I have worn this foundation before and I usually mix it with something, but I think today it looks pretty good actually. Maybe it's a tiny bit off, somehow it's a little bit less yellow. I prefer something which is a little bit more warmer like this, but I think still it works. So that's the Nykaa side blended. I think this one blended pretty well, but you do have to make a little bit more effort to blend this Nykaa side out. I think the overall finish of the foundation is pretty good. It has blended quite nicely. It's not like sitting on the skin or anything like that. And the Sugar side has also blended really well, and the finish of both the foundations are a little bit different. The Nykaa one, it looks more skin-like, and this side has a tiny bit of glow. It looks like you have applied some foundation. So I think this one has the same effect as the Hourglass one had. It has a little bit more coverage and it gives a little bit more shine and luminosity. Both of the foundations are looking pretty good after application. It's just the application process is a little bit different for both of them. Sugar one is a little bit more easy to blend, takes a little less time, faster, quicker, a little bit more pigmented, so you don't have to layer that much. Nykaa one is not that soft or creamy, so you have to blend, make a little bit of effort to blend the foundation. And yeah, I think I don't hate any of the foundations. Both are working out pretty good for me, but if I have to choose one, I think I will choose the Sugar one over the Nykaa one. First because of the shade match, and also because of the finish which I'm getting on the Sugar side, which is a little bit more dewy and has a little bit more coverage. So that's the comparison of the Sugar one and Nykaa one, and now let's get back to the video. Okay guys, so that was the demo. I really hope that it was helpful in some way. If you ask me to rank these foundations in any order, like in my order of preference, let me just tell you that my first and most favorite one is this one from Hourglass. Definitely, I really love this foundation a lot. It travels with me, and whenever I'm in a rush, I usually use this foundation very easy, and it lasts on me for a good amount of time. Second one I would say, which I prefer, is this one from Sugar, and although the shade range is disappointing, but I still think that this foundation goes really well with my skin type. For my dry skin, I think this one works well, and it has a bit of coverage as well. So I really like the finish this foundation gives. The only thing is that I have to use these two shades, so the shade range is really disappointing. Third position, and this can be very well in the second position as well, is a Colourpop No Filter Stick Foundation, just because it doesn't have a lot of coverage. Otherwise, I think the foundation is great. It blends easily, it looks natural, so a very good everyday friendly foundation. And the fourth one is Nykaa. I would say this is my least preferred one because it is more of a drier formula. It is the most difficult to blend among the four which I have tried, and yeah, it takes a little bit of effort, and the shade match is not correct, and the shade range is also not that great. So that's why it's in number 4. If you have used these foundations, then you do let me know how you like these foundations. I would really love to know what you think about them. And I think with that, I have come to the end of today's video. I really hope that this video was helpful and you liked it. If you liked it, then please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you're watching me for the first time, then I really hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you again really soon in my next video. Bye.